So I've been doing a little bit of reading. I wanted to understand what's the hullabaloo about. What's the framework through which Musk and the Department of Government Efficiency are doing their work?
Yeah, it's a hot topic at the moment. DOGE, famously either named after the meme coin or the meme coin was named after it. But it's we're really inside the mirror universe now.
Yeah, look, I think we can conclusively say that it was named after the meme coin, because I think the meme coin came out in 2011.
We definitely are through the looking glass that if memes and government departments are following each other.
It's madness. So, in short, about 3 weeks ago, the president signed this executive order that we're looking at now on the screen.
It's good font. Looks very official.
That's powerful. Do you know, with Air Force One, when Trump re-inherited Air Force One, he said the blue on the airplane was too feminine, and he was going to make it a darker blue, more masculine blue.
A royal blue or a navy blue or one of those.
Yeah, maybe a strong navy.
Yeah,
the tough man blue. So I think that's what we're looking at here. But yeah, it's pretty short.
Vested in me as I reckon that's a new one. I reckon they would not speak in the first person. I'd love to read some more American legislation, but I feel like that would, by the authority vested in me as the president, I reckon they'd speak more in the third person, by the authority vested in the president. But anyway, I could be reading too much into it.
Either way, it's what he did. So what's the purpose? It establishes the department, which interestingly is just renaming an existing department, which was like the digital.
Interesting.
Digital service, I think. Yeah. The United States Digital Service is hereby publicly renamed as the United States DOGE Service and shall be established in the executive office. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and it's interesting, right?
Yeah, I don't think we need to read through this whole thing, but let's. So, what's it about? I loosely know about it, but you've gone down the rabbit hole. So, what's its core reason for existing?
Yeah,
cost
cutting. So, looking for government waste, looking for fraud or corruption, anywhere that they can save $1. One of the big areas for cost cutting is just terminating staff.
Yeah, and it links in one of these pretty audacious election commitments that Trump and Musk together had about cutting. Was it like $2 billion or $2 trillion?
$2 trillion was the goal. I think $2 trillion a year. Yep.
And look,
established.
And you know what?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not a bad aim. You know, I've worked in a lot of public service, a lot of government, and a bureaucracy. It's like a living organism that is constantly replicating itself and getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it feeds and lives off bureaucracy. So one department gets created, they create more departments, and then they give themselves more staff, and there's a whole lot of busy work that goes on, and it's often difficult to, one, remember what the service that was being provided, and two, trying to provide that service for good value for money for taxpayers. Because, I mean, that the word taxpayers' money, it is a bit of a misnomer, but what it does mean is if that money could be used elsewhere, then that's a good thing. I don't think that's what they're looking at here. I think this is purely a strong man's business.
Well, let's go deeper. Let's go deeper down the rabbit hole. So there's a website, which we can see here. So it's got
a dollar coin
DOGE website.
That is a meme coin logo.
Yeah.
Oh man,
it looks like a meme coin logo.
I just feel like at this moment in time, you know, what's going on in history, I feel like almost, you know, is this a joke? Are we living inside a joke?
It gets worse. It gets a lot worse. So Elon Musk spent $288 million on helping Donald Trump win
just a few
the
pocket
election,
change.
Using a couple of dollars, and his platform X was a vessel for that. Gets his Doge department, spins up a website. This is an official government website. someone had described it as reading like
So
an ad
this is
for
a government
X.
website
And
that
what's the first thing you see?
that
This is a government
they've
website,
recut to
DOGE.gov.
look exactly like X or Twitter.
Yeah, so the landing page of the Department of Government Efficiency.gov is this page, which is just a series of Twitter posts telling you all of the good work that everyone involved in DOGE is doing. So
this is, I mean, for its reach and for its impact, it's quite clinical. This is a little cruel. This is a little futuristic. What does Join do? Because I know that they've got a lot of young 19-year-olds with little experience around the world. If they click this join button and then
yeah. Look, unfortunately, I tried that earlier, and I think I'm
you're not qualified. You're too old.
Yeah, so I need to use a VPN to get that one. That's probably worth doing. Won't be able to do it now, but yeah. So you've got all this Twitter stuff, and obviously you click on something, it's going to link back to X.
Yeah, I've seen a bit of press on this.
Yeah.
You know, I've seen a lot of people that are linked to the American federal government, either on a primary, like they're employed by them, or they provide services for them. A lot of them are woken up overnight, and a lot of them are probably Trump supporters that said, "Yeah, this is a great idea. Government waste. We need to cut the waste." They were probably hoping we need to cut the waste from someone else's waste so that I can keep a job. But it's hit home for a lot of people. Now, the US is such a hellscape because if you lose your job, your healthcare is tied to your job. You're pretty much moments away from being homeless.
Yeah. Getting a job and keeping a job is a big deal.
It's a big deal. Your whole livelihood, your health,
they don't have it.
Your welfare, your existence is tied to your job. So if someone is just woken up overnight and been told from an email, I hear there's 15-minute interviews with 19-year-olds who are probably allies of Trump and Elon. Let's be real about it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Big Balls and all his mates, they're mostly former employees of.
Yeah, that's it. There's one very senior guy whose name is Big Balls, and he's making big ball decisions about people's lives. Again,
yeah, he's earned the moniker, but I'm scared.
It probably is a good thing, as I said, but it needs to be handled with a lot more tact than this. You know, governments do waste a lot of money, sure, and people get really excited about government waste. But the hilarious thing is, if you dive into this, so much of government waste under the previous Trump government, under conservative government, is because of sweetheart dodgy deals with their mates. You know, think back to.
Let's get into it.
I can think of back of the war on terror when they were rebuilding it. Some of the big contractors were out of Halliburton. That was the Dick Cheney company. There's a real revolving door in these governments about jobs for the boys and jobs for their mates.
We'll get to it. So let's have a quick click through some of these tabs, right? So the savings one, they're working on
that. They haven't made any savings
yet. Well, I think they would claim that they are moving quickly, right? Like this is 3 weeks
that
in.
Is
like
fast,
Michael,
yeah.
I don't know what you were doing three weeks into a job. Like you're still trying to understand the landscape, but these guys are just wrecking balls.
I was still talking to payroll and making sure. Right. Total. Okay.
So this is super interesting, right? I actually like this. Like I like data. I think data needs to drive decision making. And I like that they're attempting to build some sort of dashboard. We'll click through a few other things, and you can. It just the whole thing reeks of ideology, but I do like that they're. This
is very interesting because the executive
system.
Branch is just the president. So the president has 2.2 million staff, and this is a really interesting one, and it's important to stop and think about what America is, and what America is and what Trump thinks America is are two very different things. So the fact that an executive branch of the government has got 2.2 million people and they spend $211.6 6.3 billion on wages, which means you've got this massive global machine like Team America, World Police going around and enforcing their will. And that's what American governments, since they moved out of isolationism, that's what they've wanted to be. They've wanted to be the big, powerful person who comes in, makes the decisions, forces democracy on people. Trump seems to have a very different view of that.
Yeah, he definitely does, and it ties back. He wants to scale back, but I think as a percentage of the US population, this is actually pretty small, right? So America's got a population of around 330 million people, 2 million public servants. Not a huge deal. There's a little.
But this is not public servants. If we're looking on the heading of that, it says the executive branch.
Yeah, but I think that encapsulates most public servants. There's a caveat down the bottom. It says workforce data excludes military, postal service, White House, intelligence service agencies, and others. So there's obviously a lot more. Like, the total government employee headcount.
So what's this cabinet level agencies then?
Yeah, great question. You can click through on a lot of this stuff. So cabinet level agencies, 35. And how interesting this, you got the age range, you got the salaries broken down. Years of tenure, age, salary. All right, cabinet level agencies. We'll click through on that. 2 million people.
Right, okay. So a lot of, I see. Okay, so this really is a lot of the public service.
Yeah, it'd be a big chunk. I mean, I don't know how much would be in the military, postal service, White House, intelligence agencies, and others. I mean, others is pretty... Like, what about the dark agencies, like all the secret UFO stuff and like the secret CIA programs? Like, I don't know if
they're not going to want to be cut. Yeah, they're not going to want to allow themselves to be cut. There were a lot of, whether you buy into it or not, and I don't, but I'm going to say it anyway. So there was one rumor in the 60s that the people behind the JFK assassination were the CIA, and it was because he pissed them off. Now, it's not to say that they did it, but he did piss them off because he cut their funding and because they had tried to assassinate Castro. This was when Castro was a big deal with the Cuban Missile Crisis, and so JFK didn't like him that much. And when you piss off an agency like this, they tend to do bad stuff.
Well, you know what, Michael? I think you and I will live to find out, because I think those files are going to become...
The JFK files?
Which is very interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. Feels sad for the family, but yeah, very interesting.
It's been a long time. It is a public interest thing.
So anyway...
Yeah, people getting shots, never good. So yeah, interesting data that you can click through here. They do say it could be... So this is DOGE's effort to create a comprehensive government-wide org chart. This is an enormous effort, and there are likely some errors or omissions. We'll continue to strive for maximum accuracy over time.
Speaking of errors, I think there was the very funny clip where Elon goes into the White House, the Oval Office, and he brings his son as like some strange prop, and he's got him sitting on his shoulders.
Oh, I saw that, yeah.
He'd made this outlandish claim that they had stopped a whole truckload or a shipload of condoms going
$50 million of condoms.
I
wanted to talk about that.
And on paper, on face value, you would have thought, oh, this is outrageous. Gaza is in the middle of a protracted war with Israel. Why are we sending them condoms? And so they cut that off, and they made a big deal that they'd done that. Hooray, fantastic. Someone who'd done 5 minutes research said, hang on a second, there's more than one Gaza. This was Gaza in Africa, in Mozambique. And condoms were critical because it was helping prevent the spread of AIDS. And then when Elon was confronted with this, his answer was such a crude, sociopathic answer. He just said, I'm going to get it wrong sometimes. Okay, right. We're all going to get it wrong sometimes in our jobs, but we're not going to get it, like, if you've got your finger on the nuclear trigger, you're not allowed to get it wrong. You have to get it right.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, he's got such a big mouthpiece. Probably Elon Musk has the biggest mouthpiece in the United States, and what he says matters. So he probably needs to be a little bit more careful than the average Joe about what comes out his mouth.
And if anyone was ever questioning his buyout of Twitter, 40 million, billion, the numbers are all getting confusing.
Yeah,
44 billion.
44 billion.
If anyone is ever
44 billion,
questioning the value of that, they can now realize, buying media, just like Rupert Murdoch, just like Rupert
paid
Murdoch
off.
did.
It totally paid
You
off.
buy the media, you make a loss, but you own the conversation, you own the politicians, and that's powerful. You can shift people's thinking, and because we all live in a supposed democracy, you can shift people's thinking towards the way you want to think through this giant screaming echo chamber that is the political media. Twitter used to be amazing. It used to be, when I used to work in politics, you would go to Twitter. Things would break on Twitter. You would follow certain hashtags because you would know as soon as something happened, and if you were in a media conference or you were in Parliament, which I was sometimes, something would happen, and then someone would post it on Twitter, and it would go off like this organic fire and rip through the cultural sphere. Twitter used to be amazing, and then when Trump came in, and this is a very interesting parallel. When Trump came in, he bought it, he'd spent a whole lot of money, and he thought, well, I've spent a whole lot of money, I don't want to spend a whole lot more. So he just cut it. He just cut the workforce. Same sort of thing that he's proposing to do with DOGE. He just cut the workforce, just a big axe through it. I think it was something like 80% went missing. And
you mean Musk, not
Musk,
Trump,
not Trump.
Yep.
Same person, very similar at the moment. Musk went through, Axe went through. The quality of the quality went down. It wasn't a trusted place anymore for political speak or cultural speak. It wasn't a safe space for a lot of people. So people left, but he kept the investment. And look now, he's got the US government websites looking like what was formerly known as Twitter.
Yeah, it's kind of just a funnel, I guess, in some ways towards Twitter. The Twitter's changed tremendously. A lot of people from the centre all the way to as far left as you can imagine have probably migrated to Blue Sky.
Yeah, what's the other one? Trump's got Truth Social.
Truth Social.
I've not waded into that.
I guess that's still.
I've not waded into that
along.
toilet sphere yet. But there was others. What was the other ones? There was
Facebook's Threads.
Good old Facebook. There used to be MySpace back in the day. No, the other ones that are further right. There was Truth Social. There was another one. So were the P.
Look, we're getting sidetracked, Michael. I'm going to keep this conversation on the DOGE train. So the next tab, regulations. This is a really interesting page because it's just so hyper political. The unconstitutionality index. So it's claiming this is the number of agency rules created by unelected bureaucrats for each law passed by Congress.
This reeks of hypocrisy because Elon is unconstitutional. If this is the line he's going down, then he's an unelected bureaucrat.
Insanity.
This is the number of agencies. This is the scary thing, right? So government is important. Government's really important. And the structure of government's also very important. So you elect a group of people and they're generalists and you vote them in and then they get given departments and then they administer those departments. So there are dotted lines between your vote, your constitutional responsibility, that minister or secretary, and the decisions in that department. So this is just a very gross oversimplification. And as you said, it's a real scream out to some people in the political spectrum just to get them riled up about something which is not. It's very misleading.
Absolutely. I mean, Republicans and Libertarians have always had the philosophy of small government and winding back regulation. That's no secret. That's no surprise. But this is a step further. So how is a rule defined per this infographic? So, I mean, laws that are passed through Congress, that could be quantified. That's probably not controversial. But I wonder, what's the data behind these rules? And how do they define?
Look, I'm just guessing. I know in Australia we have laws that have to get passed through a parliament, and then there's regulations. So agencies have the power to make certain regulations. So there's a law that says, okay, we give you this power to change something, you don't have to come back. So they might change the speed limit, or they might do something that's within their power to do. If that's what it is, that could be what it is. But then again,
sorry, Michael. The thing is, perhaps it might be some sort of natural ratio whereby when you pass a law, which is probably quite broad in some of its definitions, you probably need to fill in the blanks a little bit with some common sense and maybe some processes and what might be determined as rules in this infographic we looked at.
Either way,
I'm not
unconstitutionally indexed. It smacks of the same sort of language of illegal boat people, and it's making someone sound wrong or criminal before they've even done it, and there's no criminality involved.
Exactly. Yeah, because what it's saying is, you're doing your job in a way I don't like, so it's unconstitutional. That's what it is. Code of Federal Regulations, counting the words, sections of regulation. So this is ChatGPT work here. Someone has pumped this into AI and spat this out. If they've got someone to actually do this work, then it's not a good use of government efficiency. Well, Elon has no shortage of physical resources and no shortage of followers that are really passionate. So I don't doubt that he's got loads of clever people and resources to put together this data. And I'm not saying flat out that it's wrong, but I'm saying what all of this is saying is that we hate regulation in any form and we're going to get rid of it. The fact that regulations exist, we dislike, and we're going to remove it. We're going to war against
It's a really dangerous thing, right? You're really skirting with the edges of anarchy here. This is getting back to the January 6th riots. The more and more you start poking this, these people, these unelected people, this deep state, they're doing things, they're trying to take away the power from you. All of that's a lie. Then you can really rile some people up, and then you can talk about some real fringe-dwelling, anarchistic, as you're saying, to the right of the libertarians, are the people that are stocking cans of food in their cellar and prepping for the end, and then that they bust into the parliament when they think that something doesn't go their way. So they're really skirting with some dangerous territory here.
I agree, mate. Now let's move on to what I think is one of the more interesting things to come out of all this, right? So Elizabeth Warren, Senator and former university professor, she made the case for a new regulator. Not Trump's friend. A new regulator 15 years ago to protect consumers getting ripped off by mortgages, car loans, and other financial products. She got her wish. In 2010, Congress voted in favour of a sweeping financial overhaul that created the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. The new watchdog, revived by the banking industry, would go on to return nearly $20 billion to consumers allegedly harmed by everything from fake bank accounts, illegal foreclosures, and improper car repossessions. Now, Warren is alarmed as the regulator she helped create has been virtually paralysed by the Trump administration in an effort led by the world's richest man. Days after billionaire Tesla CEO Elon Musk, whom Trump named head of the Department of Government Efficiency, posted RIP CFPB with a tombstone emoji on social media, the CFPB's Washington headquarters were shut down. Employees were ordered to stand down from all work, even protecting consumers from financial...
This is really interesting, and it brings up two points. These sort of cost-cutting, these efficiency drives, they're always with an end in mind. And it goes back to the neoliberal... We'll do another episode on neoliberalism. It goes back to the neoliberalism agenda, which is small government, cut government spending, better cooperation between government and the private sector. So effectively what they're trying to do is they're trying to carve out all this work that's being done by the government, and they're going to give it to the private sector because they think this is done more efficiently. What ends up happening is that the private sector does that work that should have been the government. They don't do it any more efficiently. and then they pass those costs.
Well, in this case, we're just talking about removing a regulator. We're not talking a private for-profit company isn't going to have any more internal auditing and regulation than they're required to have.
So this is we're going to go through the setup first. So the first step is get the work out of government's hands, give it to the private sector to do or not do. Or not do is the important part, because, and this happens all the time. You look at every sort of crash. Someone comes in, they build it up, they get protections in place. Someone comes in next and they say, this is too much. We'll cut spending. We're going to cut back on these controls, this work that people think is waste. And then what fills the void are some very opportunistic, nasty people. It's like, prior to the GFC happening, there were rules against governments banks being involved in investments. There was supposed to be a separation, and then that got removed, and then the banks went all in on investments, and then tanked in the GFC. So what I was getting at was the long game of all these cost-cutting exercises. One, to give the work to the private sector, or two, have the work not be done at all.
I mean, I think very rich people that head large corporations, financial institutions, they don't like regulation. It slows them down. It means they can't rip people off as much. It's just removing oversight. Now, it's interesting because this entity that Musk has just shut down, that would have been looking at X if it were to spin up a
That's right. This is a very interesting part that I've heard about as well. Yeah, so X is trying to, God knows whatever reason, but do a similar thing to what PayPal did. And Musk was not a founder of PayPal, but he got involved in PayPal, made some...
He'll tell you he was a founder.
He'll tell you
he got it changed. He got it changed on paper.
Founder of Tesla, but he wasn't as well. This is a guy. He's just a regular succubus who comes in and usurps power and prestige, and then sucks all the value out and moves on to something else. That's his end game. He'll do the same with DOGE. But yeah, he wants a PayPal type platform on X, which sounds like an absolute horror show. And a great way for people to lose money.
I don't know. He might do a great job, but my position is you need financial regulators because financial entities unchecked
completely.
Do
it's the reason for existing. A bank or any sort of financial institution's reason for existing is to make money, not win friends and make friendship bracelets for anyone. They're there to rip people's hearts out and take money and park it in some Swiss bank account so no one can ever get to it.
Yeah, so I'm worried about it.
Well, I'll be more worried if I was member of the US of A. But this sort of mentality is going international. So where we live in a little island in Asia called Australia, our government, our alternative government, our opposition, loves the idea of DOGE. Gina Reinhart has been saying that we need DOGE. I love how rich people love to tell us what we need, even though they are so rich. They're billionaires, but they're telling us, poor plebs that work for a living, what we need. Anyway, so our opposition leader, Peter Dutton, thinks it's such a great idea that he's given the title of DOGE to one of his shadow ministers, even though he's already got...
Oh, he's called a person Doge.
He's
Mr. Doge.
He's given her the shadow... She's got the shadow title of Shadow Minister for DOGE. Shadow Minister for Government Efficiency. So there's no dough in there, but it's the same sort of vibe. Hilariously, he's also got a Shadow Minister for Government Waste. So he's got two people looking into the same thing, which is it's an oxymoron, because what he's done is he's trying to do something, but he's created waste in the process.
Yeah, interesting. Look, I guess he's probably just trying to appeal to the the young, mostly male libertarian crowd that thinks what Elon's done
Everything
is super
Elon
cool.
has done is super
And
cool.
it's like,
Yeah,
I can do that
even the
too.
Nazi salutes, everyone will say, no, it wasn't a Nazi salute. It was just something else. But man, he's really the leader of the
Yeah.
thought police at the moment, and he's got people. Trump did it so well in getting people to have this religious belief in him, and Musk has done the same sort of thing. So, you've got all, you do have to be impressed by what they do and their reach and how effective they can be. They can walk into a room and say it's Wednesday, even though it's Tuesday, and everyone will say, okay, yep, you're right, it's Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't think Musk has a lot of people or Trump either around them telling them no.
No, these
wrong.
people they really are dictators. They're really, it's back, and it is, it's a curious thing because the history of America is a very interesting piece. You had a crippling government. You had the British government taxing them, treating them horribly as a colony, and they said, well, we're going to have our independence, we're going to have a war, and then we're going to declare ourselves independent. And the Declaration of Independence, fantastic document. It's a founding document in the rights of people. Well, it was supposed to be the Bill of Rights, but it was all to be set up so they wouldn't have kings. You'd have your judiciary, your executive, and your Congress all separated with the separations of power. But what they've got now is, because Trump owns the House, owns the Senate, he's bought off all the judges, and he
hasn't just bought them off. He's firing.
He's firing even his own mates.
He's just getting rid of everyone. Trump administration fires 20 immigration judges with no explanation. Well, I guess he wasn't processing deportations.
Well, I was just talking about him being a dictator, a king. In another episode we're going to do soon about Putin. He loves these strong guys. He loves these dictators because he gets off on the power they have and this unchecked power they have. He was a big fan of Kim Jong-un. He loves Putin. There's anyone who's a dictator who is not getting slowed down with these boring layers of democracy. He's a big fan.
Yeah. He is a big fan of Viktor Orban in Hungary, and he is doing things this time around that are quite similar to what Viktor Orban has done in Hungary to centralize power. I watched a really good video of this professor, Kim Lane Chappell. She's a legal professor from Princeton. She's got a few lectures on YouTube, but she's basically an expert. She's not yet an export. She's still in the country. She's an expert on autocracy and how nation states end up in autocracies, and she's very concerned.
Yeah, all the signs are there. All the signs are there. And you think back to, and you don't want to throw out all these, 1930s Germanic comparisons, but it's all there. The playbook's there, and it starts out with. It's fascism. Let's call it what it is. You win the public over. You create yourself as like a godlike figure. You either break or get all those structures of the government completely aligned to you, the courts, the bureaucracy. You win over Parliament, so there's no opposition. I mean, as I said. He's won over the House. He's won over everyone. And then you lie to everybody. You convince people to vote for you that would have never voted for you because you completely lied. And now there really is now no check to Trump's power.
Yeah, it's so true. And the crazy thing is to me that people that might have voted off the back of certain things, whether it was claiming to end the war in Ukraine in a single day or deport everyone. On both of those measures, he hasn't been able to do either. But his followers don't seem to care. It's like, okay, so you said if you were in power, you'd stop the war in a day.
Well, look, I think we have to give him a little credit though, because he brings things to a head. So with the war on Gaza, he did bring that to a head. Hostages were released, which is fantastic because so horrific that has gone on for such a long time. Hostages on both sides, Israel and Palestine, were held.
I agree. I was talking specifically about Ukraine, but I do agree.
Let's
He's
not
brought
get
stuff
into
to a
Ukraine
head,
because
but
we've got a whole
but,
new
he's
episode on
talking
that to come
about
out.
the USA taking
Oh, yeah,
ownership
that's
of the Gaza
just-
Strip and
that's
turning it
madness.
into a resort. That's just complete insanity. Like, imagine being a person in the States, maybe a Muslim in the States with Arab heritage, and voting for Trump because you thought
And
you would
lots
get a
did.
better
A
outcome
lot
than
did.
voting for the Democrats. And how would you feel now? Would you be like, oh shit, I voted for a fucking monster. How could I have done that? Or would you say, oh nah, this is just shooting the breeze. He probably won't push out 2 million Gazans.
You know, I remember there was an election held here, and I remember talking to someone and that they'd voted for. They obviously didn't vote for who I voted for. And then after they'd voted, I had a conversation with them, and who did you vote for? So they voted Conservative, and I said, what? Just interest sake. I don't really care. What motivated you to do that? And they told me the policies, and I said, all right. So that was the policy, and these have been all their actions in that space to date. And this other policy, and this has been all their actions. So there's a huge gulf between their actions and their rhetoric. So what you can conclude is that they've lied to your face to get you to vote a certain way. And this is the thing about democracy. It's flawed for so many reasons, but all they need to do is to win either the popular vote or the 2PP, or in America, the crooked electoral Congress. They only need to do that every few years, and then it's completely unchecked. The only thing you can do elsewise is protest, which is pretty messy and doesn't really achieve anything. So all they need to do is trick you, and you've got some people that don't have time to get informed, that don't have time to cut through all the bullshit. So they have to go in there as best informed as they can be. And most of the time, they get hoodwinked into doing something that if they had had the time and someone told them the truth and they could see the difference between bullshit, they wouldn't have voted that way.
Yeah. I think it's such a unique point in history, Mick, because this time around, like, I think it's a coin flip whether we see an election in the States in another 4 years.
Yeah.
For a few reasons. One is the technology reason. Like, look at where AI is at now. It is insane. Like, AI is very intelligent. It can be deceptive. The powerful AI models are all owned by powerful people. Trying to get good information. Like imagine just being just a regular Joe, trying to navigate social media and the internet, maybe with not much of a political background or upbringing, and just trying to find the truth. It would just be so easy to fall down a hole of misinformation. I'm really concerned that everyone's just going to get brainwashed, or maybe not everyone, but enough people will get brainwashed or disinterested to the point where it'll be really possible for Trump, if he's still around, or Musk, that whole cohort of Project 2025 guys, because they're probably starting on this now, to shut down the machinery that will enable the next election.
Yeah, absolutely.
They might have one. It might be a sham election.
Yeah, because for sure you'd go after the things that you don't like, and you'd call that efficiency. You'd call that cutting waste, but in truth, you're just cutting bone. You're cutting an actual piece of the tree, the structure that is the government, that is the country, the people that provide services. Water departments, electricity departments, critical tasks.
Yeah, it's really wild. So mate, look,
that's DOGE.
That's DOGE. They're moving quickly. They're chopping things down. It's interesting. There's been a lot of court cases, people trying to stop what they believe are illegal actions.
But who are they going to appeal to? The Galactic Empire is in charge. Who are you going to appeal to? Unless you blow up the Death Star, there's there's no end to it.
Yeah, I'm keen to see what happens next. I don't have deep legal understanding. You've probably got a bit more of an idea than I
Well,
do.
there's no check.
But
So it was
yeah, I
designed.
want to,
The system is designed to be this triangle. So the executive is supposed to be held in check by Congress, and they're both supposed to be held in check by the judiciary. But if you stack Congress and you stack the judiciary, and the executive branch is run by a sociopath, then buckle up, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, at least they have the NFL. The NFL is a lot of fun.
yeah,
Love that. Great game. But the rest of it, holy dooly. Yeah, it's good to watch from afar.
yeah. But there's still good to watch from afar. There's still court hearings, and I wonder, are they operating at the federal level, at
But
the
ultimately,
state level?
Yeah, but
Because
ultimately, the highest court in the land is stacked. And they've already had cases. They've already had cases that have just been, as soon as Trump came in, they said, okay, we're not going to do that anymore because the leader doesn't want us to do it anymore. So the whole concept of justice. I mean, the justice system is always serves the master of the day, but it's never this overt.
Yeah. Yeah, the loyalty thing kind of scares me because they're sort of signaling to people, if you get in our way, we will make your life
completely
hard. So get in line.
We could go into this for a few more days, but I think we've done DOGE.
Nah, it's been a good one, Mick. Thanks for taking the time. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Definitely have. It's opened up a few doors of things we want to get into, and I really want to get into the Russia-Ukraine situation, but we'll get into that next.
Excellent.